Hello and welcome to this edition of Reporter's Notebook. I'm Kayla Schmidt. Today I am joined by fellow digital reporter Victoria Holmes. Victoria, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well.
Awesome. So tell me what you're here to talk about today, because it's not just some, daily turn.
No, yes. So Emily and I are launching our podcast, What the Politics, tomorrow. So all day today I've been editing our first episode.
Awesome. And now tell me really what that's going to entail.
Yes. So What the Politics is going to be a weekly discussion trying to bring back civil discussion into the political arena. Basically, our goal is to have a discussion and not necessarily have anything that might show someone's agenda or go towards a certain end goal, except for simply having a variety of voices on our podcast. And to kind of expand into that a little bit more, I think a lot of people are concerned about the way that our discussions are going when it comes to political discourse, in the sense that a lot of us tend to get heated and we tend to, myself included, assume what the other side is saying and try to come up with a counter argument, but instead of actually listening. And so this is going to be a exercise in patience for me, because I definitely have a lot of opinions about the way that, I'm, as everyone, opinions about politics, and that's because I'm really passionate about policy and about civility and this American experiment, which is something that we do talk about in our podcast. So it's definitely an exercise in patience for me, but I'm super excited to get it going.
That is awesome. It sounds like it's going to be really interesting. And we also are launching this podcast as 9 on Your Side's first podcast. I mean, how do you feel about that?
It's a lot of responsibility, because not only is this my first 2 months in Greenville, this is my first career, like my job as a journalist. So there's a lot of responsibility that comes with launching a podcast, and I think when it comes to trying to, with this podcast, I definitely want to have an area where people can feel welcomed to voice their opinion. And I think that's because, as someone who just graduated from college, I did not feel as if my voice was heard. And so I feel one of my responsibilities as a person who has this platform now is to expand the voices that are going to be heard here in Greenville. And so that's something that I'm really, really excited about. And it can be a little bit daunting. It seems like a daunting task, but I just ask that the listeners, because this is a podcast, the listeners join in on the conversation and expand this into more than just me and Emily talking, because that's what I don't want this to be. I want this to be an actual discussion with people who have concerns that I'm not even aware of, because their lives are totally different than my own and Emily's. So yeah.
And for people watching at home, Emily, we are referring to 9 on Your Side digital reporter Emily Severage, who is also joining in on the podcast with Victoria. So Victoria, tell us when and where we can find the first episode.
So the first episode is going to air tomorrow. You can find us on Spotify, you can find us on Apple, you can find us on the WNCT Now app. I'm not going to say what exact time it airs. That's because y'all just have to subscribe so that y'all can get the notification for when it pops up on your phone.
Little surprise.
Yeah.
A political surprise.
But tomorrow, Tuesday, yes.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining me, Victoria. And I am very excited to listen to the podcast.
Thank you.
Well, that is all we have for today. Again, thank you to Victoria Holmes for joining me, and make sure to keep a lookout for 9 on Your Side's new podcast, What the Politics. Thanks for joining us.